So back to China, again, as part of this whole thing, this whole trade agreement thing. This is from Barry C. Lynn's piece in today's Reuters. It's titled, Why China Has the Upper Hand in the South China Sea. It's June 3rd. Yeah, today's June 3rd. It's today's Reuters, in the blogs over at Reuters. He notes, international relations in East and South Asia are tenser than at any time since the 1960s. By the way, in the 1960s, China was a third world country. There was basically no industry there. I lived the month of November in 1986 in China, in Beijing. And, you know, there were no cars on the streets. I mean, maybe once every 5 minutes on the major arteries, you'd see one big black limousine going by carrying a Communist Party official. Millions of bicycles. The back streets of all the little areas, all the parts of Beijing, there were piles of charcoal briquettes, not charcoal, coal briquettes that people would take in to heat their houses. The tallest building in town was the 10 or 12 story Hilton or Hyatt or whatever it was, the American hotel there. It was the third world. And then we changed our trade policy and started shipping all of our manufacturing over there, or we changed our national trade policies so that our for-profit corporations could increase their profits by screwing American workers and hiring Chinese workers, by screwing American companies and suppliers and small shops like my dad's tool and die shop and hiring Chinese ones. And not just Chinese. I mean, it went all over the world, but particularly Chinese, because China is now a larger economy than the United States. And back in the 80s when I was there, I mean, it was just a little tiny third world country with a billion people, but just a little tiny third world country. Well, now the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe last year compared the situation to 1914, just before World War I. That's how tense it is in the South China Sea. The possibility of war between China, Taiwan, and Japan. If Taiwan and Japan say no to China, and maybe the Philippines, we have a mutual defense treaty with both Japan and Taiwan. We would be in a war with China. If we're in a war with China, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to say, we're not going to ship you any more electronics. If they don't ship us any more electronics, we don't have a single computer in this country. At least any new ones. We don't have a single, maybe a television set. Maybe some of this stuff comes from South Korea, I suppose. It wouldn't be a single, but they are the largest supplier by a large part. And as he points out in this Reuters piece, today the United States depends on China for 100% of key electronics and chemical components. China has, this is what happens with state capitalism, right? State capitalism is absolutely brilliant. We're talking about the Chinese communists. The largest supporters in the United States of the Chinese communists are the Walton family. They're worth $100 billion, and they made that money supporting the Communist Party in China. And promoting, every time you go to Walmart and you buy something, you are helping the communists in China. A dictatorship that kills its own people and, censors the internet and on and on. But most importantly, during World War II, we were able to make a transition as we went into a time of war with Germany and Japan. Our ladies' nylon factories became parachute factories. Well, our ladies' nylons are now made in China. Our car factories were able to become tank factories. Well, we still have a few car factories in this country, but most of the parts, the Chevrolet engine blocks are made in China. All of the computer systems in the cars are either made in China or depend on parts made in China. Your iPhone, your cell phone, even if it's a South Korean one or a German one or whatever it may be, it's got parts coming from China. If China were to cut us off, we're screwed. We're just absolutely screwed. And we're now trying to tell them, stop taking these reefs and turning them into islands so that you can call it military territory, so that you can stick your nose, stick your face into that of Taiwan, which China still thinks is a renegade state. It's part of China. Or that you can take on Japan. We have so shot ourselves in the foot with this insanity of free trade, and now we're trying to push through this TPP thing. It's in the House of Representatives right now. Call your Republican members of Congress, 202-225-3121, and ask them, why do you support giving more money to communist dictatorships like China and countries like Malaysia that endorse slave labor?
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
Yes, slave labor. Slave labor is essentially legal in Malaysia, and they're one of the signatories to the TPP. Really?